You will not believe what this double murder suspect did before he was demanded out of his house with his hands in the air, only wearing a towel. He allegedly tried to turn ChatGPT into an accomplice for murder in a sick plot as law enforcement searched for two missing University of South Florida students. What he allegedly asked AI before and after the killings. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Stewart. Well, hey guys, real quick, I do want to tell you about this app. It's called Upside. It gets you cash back on everyday purchases like gas, groceries, and takeout. So here's what you do. Super easy. Download Upside. It's free. Claim an offer at one of their 100,000 plus locations. Then you pay like you typically would with your card. Verify the purchase, and you get money back. I've used it when I pump gas, or maybe I'm doing takeout one night, just searching for offers on Upside. Then after I spend, money appears in my app, then I just transfer it straight to my bank. That's it. Upside's frequent users earn an average of $254 back a year. So to start getting your cash back, click the link in the description or scan the QR code and use promo code OTC to get an extra 25-cent bonus on every gallon on your first tank of gas. The case of the missing USF students that got national attention came to an end in a way that nobody wanted. Police in Tampa say both of them are dead, and they do believe they have the person responsible in custody.
And do I have Hisham Abugharbieh here?
He's present. I think he's off to the side, Your Honor.
Excellent. Thank you.
Here is that person, the suspect, Hisham Abugharbieh, making his first appearance in court in Hillsborough County. He's now charged with the murders of boyfriend and girlfriend Zamil, Limon, and Nahida Bristy. Zamil and Nahida were students at USF in Tampa, and police say their murders were premeditated. And those alleged ChatGPT questions, they may be clear proof that this was a plan the suspect allegedly put into action. Now, before I get to those messages, I want to break down how we got to this point. You have Zamil and Nahida. They were both reported missing on Friday, April 17th. Nahida, she was someone who seemed to love music. She was a native of Bangladesh, and she was working hard toward a graduate degree in chemical engineering. As for Zamil, he also was from Bangladesh, and he was dating Nahida. He was at USF studying geography, environmental science, and policy. And you just think of the journey that the two of them took, traveling across the world to Tampa to work towards getting an American college degree. Both were last seen the day before they were reported missing, Thursday, April 16th. Apparently, there's surveillance video that shows them on campus, according to police. Now, we have court records that lay out very specific details that law enforcement say proves that Hisham Abugharbieh allegedly is responsible. So let's break down what we're learning and the unique way that police were able to track him down. So I want to start with when this couple was first reported missing on the 17th. You had a friend of them who called USF police saying he hadn't heard from Nahida since about 10 o'clock in the morning the day prior. The friend also said he tried to call her boyfriend and his phone was off. Nahida's phone was off as well. It just seemed very odd. The friend said the last time he spoke with Zamil was also on the 16th. It was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Police then called around to friends of the couple, and each of them said that they hadn't heard from the couple since roughly the 16th. The investigation then brought police to where Zamil lived. It was an apartment he shared with two other people. It was an apartment where they really only shared a common space. Each of them had a bedroom. Each of them had their own bathroom. So you would only see the people you were living with whenever they were going into that common area. Now, Zamil's bedroom, though, police said it was locked. His scooter, though, was still there, and that was odd because he typically would take his scooter to get around. Police also searched his phone calls, and they found that he had spoke with Nahida on the phone on the 16th, the day they were last seen, at about 12:41 in the afternoon, and they had a few other calls that day, the last one being just before 3 o'clock. Police then interviewed both of Zamil's roommates. The first one they talked to said they saw Zamil on the 15th, that was Wednesday, and he was cooking dinner. The second roommate said he had no idea where Zamil was or Nahida. But police said there was something about that roommate that started to stand out to them, and it was a bandage he had on his pinky. The roommate said it was because he was cutting an onion and he sliced himself. But there appeared to be more to the story. That roommate was then brought to the police station to talk, and that roommate's name, Hisham Abugharbieh. Now, police allegedly commented on the bandage in the interrogation room that Hisham had on his pinky, and the suspect said that he did it cutting an onion, sticking to the story he told them at the apartment. But how about this for a follow-up question? Police asked him, "What were you making when you were cutting that onion?" And Hisham couldn't remember. And that just seems a little bit odd, doesn't it? Hisham said the missing couple had never been in his car before. He also said he had never been to Clearwater. Those are two very important statements because police had not unveiled to him at that point that they had been tracking his vehicle and his cell phone. So when police confront Hisham with the fact they have tracking data showing that he had gone to Clearwater and showing that they had Zamil's cell phone in that area as well, the story started to evolve. Hisham said that he uses the map app on his phone to check out fishing spots, and he had gone to Clearwater, but it was just to check out fishing locations. When police asked for proof of that on the phone, that's when Hisham said he deleted his history. So you're starting to see this story change as more information is brought to the table. Police also said they traced Zamil's phone, and they say it was just going in the same direction as Hisham's car. And that couldn't have been a coincidence, right? The story then changed again, and he admitted that Zamil was in his car, and so was his girlfriend. Now, Hisham said that Zamil didn't tell him why he needed a ride to Clearwater. He just said he dropped the couple off at the beach, and that was it. He didn't see them again. Now, clearly, when you hear all of that, the story is just incredibly sketchy on the surface. But then police started to investigate that apartment more, and that's when they found some disturbing items in the trash. There was duct tape with a white tissue that had a substance on it that looked like blood, police said. Now, Hisham denied knowing anything about those items in the trash. Police investigated further, and they found inside Zamil's room there were some items that appeared to have belonged to a woman, size 6 shoes, and they were the shoes that surveillance video showed Nahida was wearing when she was last seen on campus. Then the other roommate said on the 17th, the day that the couple was reported missing, he saw Hisham use a cart to move multiple cardboard boxes to dumpsters near their apartment. Hisham said it was just old clothes, according to court records. Now, police seem to be locking in on a suspect, though. You just see this story that's falling apart. And then they go to Hisham's mom, who didn't exactly cover for her son. She allegedly told them that on the night of the 18th, that her son did not have a cut on his hand from cutting an onion. She also noted that her son had a problem with anger. So it turns out the cut from that onion allegedly was not the only cut on Hisham's body. Police said when they investigated him, they saw that he had a cut on his arm that was fresh, and he also had cuts on both of his legs. Now, for the most part, the apartment seemed clean, but then police dug into their bag of tools and they used an enhancement agent, and that seemed to show blood everywhere, allegedly in the entry area of the apartment, through the kitchen, into the hallways, and into Hisham's bedroom. Police followed that trail of blood, and inside they found a pink clutch, and inside it, the ID for the missing woman, Nahida Bristy. Now, a search of Hisham's phone made some very interesting and disturbing discoveries, including purchases that go back roughly 10 days before this couple was reported missing. You have on April 7th, Hisham bought duct tape on Amazon. Then a few days later, he bought a fire starter, charcoal, trash bags, and lighter fuel. He also put in a DoorDash order for Lysol wipes and Febreze. And now we get to these ChatGPT questions. They allegedly showed Hisham asking, quote, what happens if a human has put in a black garbage bag and thrown in a dumpster? When ChatGPT responded saying it sounded dangerous, Hisham allegedly responded, how would they find out? He also asked if a VIN number on a car could be changed. Then he asked if he could keep a gun in a home without a license. And then later on, he allegedly bought a fake beard off Amazon, and Hisham asked, quote, are cars checked at Hillsborough State Park? Then police say they did a search of the phone, and it showed that he was out and about in the early morning hours of April 17th. Police tracked him the entire time, they say. Police allegedly say the car connected to his cell phone just after 1 o'clock in the morning. He then allegedly drove to the Howard Franklin Bridge from his apartment complex. Police say the phone shows that he stopped in the middle of the bridge, then roughly 3 minutes later, he starts driving again. After that, Hisham's phone went back to his apartment, but he wasn't done. Allegedly, about an hour and a half later, the phone started moving again. Eventually, the phone makes its way to East 22nd Street. And remember that because it is important. Now, in the next couple of days, Hisham allegedly posed even more shocking questions to ChatGPT. Quote, has there been someone who survived a sniper bullet to the head? He also asked, will my neighbors hear my gun? And then he asked, quote, will Apple know who is the new iPhone user after the previous user? He also asked, quote, is there a water temperature that burns immediately? But one of the most damning ChatGPT questions came on the 23rd, 6 days after this couple was reported missing. And when this story had made national news, as all of us were wondering what happened, he was asking, allegedly, quote, "What does missing endangered adult mean?" And that is when Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy were considered just that by law enforcement. Police say they searched a street by the bridge and they found a large trash bag. Police noted the smell of the trash bag matched a smell they allegedly smelt in Hisham's apartment. Inside the bag, they say they found the body of a man, quote, "in advanced stages of decomposition." They confirm, allegedly, that it was Zamil's body. Police say he had injuries to his torso and his legs were deeply lacerated at the hip, so he could be folded into the bag, according to police. His wrists and ankles were bound and he was naked.
So the human remains that we were discovered this morning was one body, and that has been positively identified to Zamil. We are still actively searching for Nahida. And again, I implore the community, if you have any tips of where you've seen her or she's just recently seen, please report it to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office immediately so we can recover her to safety. But we don't have any indication to think that she is or she is not. We are still actively trying to recover Nahida.
An autopsy found that he was stabbed to death. Nahida's body, still at the time of this recording, has not been found, but police say in the court records that they believe that she fell victim to the same situation as her boyfriend Zamil allegedly did. Court documents state that police believe that Hisham stabbed both Zamil and Nahida with a blade multiple times. They also say that he bought cleaning supplies to allegedly clean up the scene. Zamil's body was allegedly dumped on the side of a bridge. And this is what went down on Friday, April 24th. 1 week after that concerned friend said he hadn't seen Zamil or Nahida. Authorities took Hisham into custody. He exited his mom's house with his hands in the air and he was only wearing a towel.
Today at approximately 9 a.m., we received a domestic violence call for service. Units responded. We knew that this was the home of the suspect. Units responded. We were able to take the family out of the residence and get them to safety. At that time, we commanded the suspect to come out to our deputies. He refused. That happened for some time, about 20 minutes or so. Commands were continued to give to the suspect. He did not respond, nor did he come out. At that time, SWAT was activated. SWAT responded. And at approximately 10:36 a.m., SWAT arrived on scene. SWAT then mobilized and commanded the suspect to come out of the residence. At that time, he came out peacefully and was taken into custody. These are the charges of the suspect. The suspect's name is Hisham.
It is unclear what happened inside the house that led to that domestic violence call. Over the weekend, the charges were upgraded to 2 counts of first-degree murder. On Saturday, Hisham made his first appearance in court on those murder charges, and right now he is being represented by a public defender. He's being held in jail right now, and he is expected in court once again on Tuesday for a custody hearing. Joining us now to talk more about this case is former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Ehrenberg. Always great to have you here on Law and Crime. You know, the ChatGPT part of it, it's just wild to read what he allegedly asked a chatbot leading up to these alleged murders and even after. I mean, as a former prosecutor, like if you were to have that type of evidence, and I know ChatGPT is relatively new, what does this mean to the case?
If criminals weren't so stupid, prosecutors would have a much tougher time because prosecutors have access to technology that's not even like revolutionary. I mean, we've been using AI for a while now. We've been using Google for a while now, and yet criminals continue to think that somehow these platforms are just anonymous, where they don't leave a footprint, where it's something that you do and no one knows how to trace it. But yet we all know how to trace it, and it's very traceable, even if you go in incognito mode. And so when you do searches for things like, hey, can I put a body in a dumpster? And ChatGPT saying, hey, that's dangerous, don't do that. And then you go ahead and you at least dump some of the items of the people you allegedly murdered in that dumpster. Yeah, it's not good for you. And then you lie about things that can be easily contradicted by digital evidence. And so this guy was not ready for prime time. He's going to go down for this. The only thing we don't know is, first, where's the body of the female victim, and also what's the motive here? We don't know that yet.
We know that he was a roommate of Zamil, and Zamil was dating Nahida, but specifically why he would allegedly do this, we don't know. You know, we've talked about cases before where a suspect may leave the cell phone behind or turn the cell phone off because they know that law enforcement may be able to pull that and pin around. It seems like this guy had zero idea that law enforcement actually has the ability to do that.
He denied ever seeing the victims on the day that they went missing. And then when it turns out that his car, because of a license plate reader, was in Clearwater, where the female victim's cell phone was pinging, he then said, oh yeah, I actually drove them. I drove them. Oh, okay. So you totally contradict your original story. And then they asked him, what were you doing in that area then? After you drove them, he was in the area where the phone was also pinging. He said that he just happened to be in that area also to look for fishing spots. And this is according to the documents filed by prosecutors. And so then the prosecutor said, okay, show us some evidence. He said, well, I used Maps, the Maps app. I used the Maps app. They said, great, show us that. He said, oh, I deleted all the evidence that I that I used the app. I deleted the location history from my phone. Sorry. I mean, the guy can't get out of his way. I mean, they found a bandage on his pinky because apparently those are defensive wounds, right? And he said, I was cutting onions. Sorry, that's why that happened. And they said, oh, what were you making? I don't remember. Dummy.
I mean, there's so many times too, I feel like and you know, we'll see the interrogation video, and hopefully we see the interrogation video from this one day, because it just seems like his story spiraled very quickly with the sheriff's deputies there in Hillsborough County. But and how often do you see it's not the first question, it's the second and third question that seems to unravel a story. This one, it seemed to unravel as easy as, okay, you were cutting onions. What was for dinner that night? And he wasn't even able to answer that.
Reminds me when Homer Simpson was asked the question, and all he had to do was to say his name, and they asked him his name, and he said, I don't know. I mean, that's the same type of thing. I was cutting onions. Oh, what were you making? I don't remember. Like, okay, all right, man. I mean, and then they find the CVS receipt for trash bags and Lysol wipes and things that could be used to dispose of a body. I mean, just like they got him. They got this guy. I mean, they also found used pieces of silver duct tape within the trash. Yeah. And just like everyone has in their trash, silver duct tape after an alleged murder. Plus, they showed some blood on the interior of the duct tape. So the only question in my mind, again, is why did he do it? And then I think it's only a matter of time when we find the body of this poor girl who he allegedly killed. I mean, the first body was found next to the bridge, and perhaps her body is nearby.
Yeah, and I mean, he door dashed some of those items from CVS as well. So like, there's another thing that you can easily track. I mean, certainly don't want to, you know, give away the answers to the test on how to get away with these things. But this guy, it just seems like was completely oblivious, and fortunately so for law enforcement working to solve this. It's incredibly disturbing. You know, the truth is when you think of what they allegedly found in that garbage bag, Zamil's body, they do not have a second body though, but they have DNA. How important would it actually be? And of course, for closure for her family, you want to find her body and be able to, you know, for that part of it. But just in terms of prosecuting a case, charging someone with a count of murder like he will be, like he is for Nahida, but we don't have her body yet, the DNA. How strong is that DNA in making that case to a jury?
DNA is great. And now we're at a stage where jurors understand DNA and they know how powerful it is. We're so far removed from the day of O.J. Simpson when we brought up DNA and the jurors like, what? What's that? Forget it. The gloves don't fit, must have quit. Now DNA is as conclusive as it gets. Might as well have a videotape of it. I mean, it is so important. As far as a body, prosecutors would like to have the body, but it's not required. You can file murder charges, and they have here with 2 counts of murder, even without the second body. And they also have charged him with disturbing a dead body. So it shows sign of a cover up here. He's been moving allegedly things around. I mean, I think it's also very telling when they did interviews with the defendant's family. They talked to his mother, and his mother said, "Oh yeah, he has a bad temper." Mm, that's not good when your own mother is giving the police good evidence to charge you.
Yeah, and for as much as I know it was roughly a week that they were considered endangered, they were considered missing, it seemed like law enforcement had a pretty good idea pretty quickly that something was up, especially with this roommate. And it was interesting too, the video of him out in the towel, hands in the air as the SWAT team was taking it out, that was related to a domestic call of some kind. So not a lot of information yet on that part of it. When it comes to motive, do you need a motive in this case? It seems like you have everything you would need if you're a prosecutor. I mean, I know it'd be nice to have, but no case is maybe open and shut, but just for all the reasons we've talked about and the evidence that's laid out in this document that prosecutors put there, even without the motive, it seems like a really strong case.
Yeah, jurors always like to know the why, so it's good to have motive, but it's not an element of a murder case. You don't have to show motive. You don't have to prove it. You just want it because jurors will ask questions. Now, it reminds me of the Brian Koberger case. Remember, the evidence was overwhelming against him, but to this day, we really don't know the motive, except he was a creepy dude who was fascinated by serial killers. But that's a thing that jurors don't like, those open-ended questions where they just like, hey, it's up to us to decide why he did it. Why would someone do that? And that, for some jurors, could even lead to reasonable doubt. Not here. There's enough evidence. And I suspect we'll get more information as it goes on as to why he allegedly did this.
And going back to the ChatGPT part of it, because I know when you were a prosecutor, I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of cases, the Google search history would show someone, and there's a lot of high profile cases of people turning to a search engine, and that looks suspicious. It seems like with these chat bots in these cases where someone is putting in a question of how to cover up a crime, like it allegedly appears here, it just seems more personal. It seems more different. Like, how have you seen some of these chat bots and the fact that people have actually asked them with help allegedly covering up crimes, like how that is something that prosecutors are going to be able to use as this becomes more prevalent?
Yeah, ask Corey Richins. Remember the Utah mom who killed her husband, tried to poison him multiple times and finally succeeded. She was doing these questions of Google about poison and good prisons to go to and things like wow, this is as if she was like directed, like, just want you to send the inquiry to the prosecutors themselves. It just saves time as opposed to just sending it to Google, because eventually it's going to get in prosecutors' hands. And that's the thing here. These guys, like I said, criminals do stupid things. I mean, they go on phone calls from their jail cell, and they will be told that the recording is fair game, that this call is being recorded. Prosecutors will be reviewing the recordings, and they still make incriminating comments on their jail calls. So why should we think any differently when it comes to Google searches?
And so he makes his first appearance over the weekend. That was on Saturday. I think he has a custody hearing tomorrow on Tuesday, but he's being represented by a public defender. Like, how do you defend this case? I mean, how do you go forward? Because for all the reasons we've talked about, it seems really strong that prosecutors, especially the digital evidence, is very, very damning for Hisham.
Yeah, well, if there's no body found for the second victim, you harp on that. You harp on lack of motive. You also blame the police. You say the police jumped to conclusions and they had him in mind without going through all the proper processes. And there's really nothing that police can do to satisfy a good criminal defense lawyer. I mean, if the police did 100 things right, the defense lawyers will say, he didn't do 101 things right. So that's just going to be par for the course. They'll put the prosecution up for their burden. They have the entire burden of proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt. They'll try to poke holes in the prosecution's case and hope they can get one juror to find some reasonable doubt, and that's a hung jury.
Florida's a death penalty state, and I just think of the details we know at this point. The state is which Zamil's body was found. He was allegedly stabbed. We talk about the premeditation, even going back to the 13th with the ChatGPT question about a body in a trash bag. Does this seem to meet the burden if he's found guilty of this, that this is a case where the death penalty could be involved?
Yes, in Florida, it's the easiest state to get the death penalty because you do not need a unanimous jury in the penalty phase to get the death penalty. You need it for the guilt phase. But when it comes to the penalty phase, you only need 8 out of 12 jurors to get the death penalty. There is no state that's lower than that. And when it comes to getting the death penalty, you have to show aggravators. You have to prove at least one aggravator beyond a reasonable doubt. And here, they could perhaps prove that it was cold, calculated, and premeditated. That's an aggravator. I think it's the strongest aggravator here. You can say, you want evidence of premeditation? How about buying the trash bags from CVS, the Lysol wipes, the Febreze on the day of the disappearance? And then the AI tools that you brought up. You're asking ChatGPT about body disposal methods. That reeks of premeditation. And then there are other aggravators like, was it heinous, atrocious, and cruel? The fact that it's a double murder, you can actually use that as a what's called a contemporaneous conviction, where you can get credit for the first conviction, even though it's at the same time as the second, and that double murder qualifies you for the death penalty.
And we'll see what happens. It does seem like a really strong case at this point. Incredibly sad situation when you think of these two students traveled across the world to get an education at the University of South Florida, and then this allegedly takes place. We'll see what happens next. Dave Ehrenberg, always great to have you on Law&Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and we're also streaming on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.